weekend. A lot of the Oregon guys were, not expecting what came up for those cars, but they came out, they showed up, they ran strong, ran them this time, but I guarantee it's not going to happen again.
Those are three very talented drivers that came down there to run with you guys. Let's talk about who got the best of the track. Now, I know Drake is always fast at Santa Maria. You mentioned Hogue, Daly. Who else was there in that field of late models? Because you guys typically draw a strong field because when there's a big show, everybody travels to it. It's like the Bud Nationals. You show up. It's almost like a Lucas deal because you got the best of the best. And the racetracks are so far apart in California that when they draw the show, they draw a show. Let's talk about who was really fast there that weekend.
Well, when you're talking about fast, you always have to talk about the big five that are out here. Tony Tost, Bobby Hogue, Steve Drake, Cody Laney, Clay Daly. Those five cats are always fast out here. Matter of fact, Saturday night, Cody Laney wins the $2,000 West Coast Road Models main event in his new 5L all black. This thing was a rocket like nobody's business. He was the only guy that was able to keep it low and keep it smooth. And then when he goes to the high side to make a pass for a slower car, was able to make it stick like he was on the bottom. It was amazing. That kid is so talented and so fast.
Well, and we've seen him at the Bud Nationals, and that kid is, he really is fast. He's I think he's kind of the face of that next generation, that movement you guys have down there going on behind those other four drivers you mentioned. He's kind of like that face of that young gun crowd coming up that's aiming for those big guys and really starting to be competitive with them.
Definitely, without a doubt, it's going to look like Cody Laney is leading the way, along with guys like R.C. Whitwell out of Arizona is leading that. But when they say that, these old guys, well, I can't call them old. These veterans will go there because if I start calling them old, they'll come kill me. These veterans, they came out there and, laid the smackdown on Sunday and said, you know what? Okay, you caught us, but not this time. Steve Drake in the 11X claims the win. Clay Daly in second. Cody Laney in third. Tony Tost in fourth. The top five, and Bobby Hogue finished eighth in the main event on Sunday. So it was, the cream rise to the top, of course, because those are the cats that have the best notes, the best setups, and we're able to make it happen. And so drive slick, drive fast, and when you get that, you got to put Steve Drake right up there with Clay Daly.
Well, there is no doubt about that. We saw what happened in the Bud Nationals last year. Night number one, Steve Drake finished second, and he looked pretty good. Looked like he had a top five car on night one of the Bud Nationals. Night two, he came out on a track that, had no traction. Was just, I don't want to call it junk, but by racer standards, it was just, there was nothing out there to get a hold of, and Drake was in a world of his own. And you talk about putting a smack down. He took those guys to school last year. He does that from night one to night two. There's a guy that knows race cars, a guy that knows how to get around on a dry slick. Drake's impressive to watch on a 2-day show.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, and that's the way it was here. And you've got to give a lot to his son, Logan Drake, who drives the 111 Modified. He's also the crew guy for Steve on his late model. And he was setting this car up. And Saturday night, Steve had a kind of day, just moseying around. But Sunday, he knew when he had to lay it all on the line because, Steve finished fifth on Saturday behind Bobby Hogue, Tony Tost, and Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson was in the 7X, which is the 37 from Robert Mayes' car. So, they did get it right early on there, but when that track dried up and kept those ruts in it, now, the crew on Saturday night did tear the track down. They completely came in, cut it, tried to get it set up to get some more traction in there. But when you're running 130 cars Saturday night and 165 on Sunday, the track's going to burn out quite quickly. And that's what happened. But
no kidding.
Drake, Daly, Laney, and Tost, the cream of the crop was right there all night long. He went home with some extra cash on Sunday night because he won the dash for cash for the late model. So, $3,000 on Sunday with a little extra couple $100 cash for the dash. Sounds like a good night of racing to me.
165 cars on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday night evening racing. That is incredible. Tell everybody, Mike, where they can find you on Facebook, and tell them what's up for next week.
Well, luckily for us this week, we're still on the high from this past race. We're dark this week because we have a rodeo in town, and a lot of our racers participate in the rodeo and volunteer time in the rodeo, so we take the week off traditionally for the rodeo. But we will be back out there on Saturday, June 11th. We've got the Ron Otto Memorial. It's the NMRA TQ Midgets, IMCA Modifieds, Hobby Stocks, American Stocks, and Mod Lights. And that's going to be one heck of a race. I'm going to be live out there that night. I'm probably going to help out at least announce the Hobby Stocks and American Stocks might get in there doing a little bit of the interviews. It's whatever our track promoter wants me to do. I'm always there for him. Santa Maria Raceway, we have a different type of deal going on. We've got a couple of guys up in the booth, and myself included, that we kind of rotate and work around each other. And it's been fun. It's been a great learning process. We're feeding off of each other, so I get a chance to do my own thing when I need to, but at the same time I can pop up there and step in for any one of those guys when they need it. Because one of our guys, Christian Copley, the name might sound familiar, used to run a lot of asphalt. His grandfather is the promoter for Santa Maria Raceway in Mike Kappemeyer, but he runs a limited late model, and he swept the whole weekend in limited late models. I mean, he checked out. He probably could have finished a 50-lap main before most of those guys were finishing a 30-lap main. He was that checked out from me.
Impressive. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, and that was on both nights. And Sunday night, he thought he would step up, ran the same car after winning the main event in the limited late models, started back in the pack, dead last in the main event for the West Coast late models, and was able to drive up into the 16th spot. So, the limited late model, be able to keep up with them, it was a whole lot of pedal fest out there trying to keep the traction because, 160 some odd cars later with almost 1,000 laps of racing on there burns out a track quite quickly.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, real quick, I want to share a story with you. You talk about the, Mike Johnson driving that 7 car of Rob Maya, his backup car. A few years ago, I want to say it was 4 or 5 years ago, Rob Maya at the Strawberry Cup invited Mike Johnson to come on up and run with us, put Rob in his backup car. Now, the Strawberry Cup here, you heard me talking about it earlier in the broadcast. It's a big deal at Willamette Speedway. It's a big deal in the Northwest. It's one of those races everybody kind of marks in their calendar and says, that's where I'm going. Johnson comes up, gets in the backup car of Rob Maya, and wins the Strawberry Cup. It was kind of like, here's a guy that hasn't been to Willamette much, and I watch him do that, and I'm thinking to myself, you got to be kidding me. Here's a guy that shows, because Willamette is not a place you just show up and win. You've got to have experience, and I'll tell you something right there. Mike Johnson grabbed some attention. That guy can wheel a race car. He is very talented in a late model, and to win the Strawberry Cup against the best of the best in the Northwest in a backup car he's never been in, I say that's one heck of a feat.
I'm going to tell you right now, Mike Johnson is probably one of the most, I give him the ninja status of the late model class because he just comes out of nowhere, gets in whatever car he can, and he's a competitor. And he will be there at the end. The guy is talented beyond belief in a car. And I can only imagine if that guy got in a solid car and was able to race it every weekend with some of these guys like Drake and Daly and Laney and Toast. If he was in one of their vehicles, oh my goodness, this cat would be untouchable.
I can't argue that. I mean, I've seen the talent of him at a few different racetracks, and he's always in the hunt, top 2-3 car, if not winning. He's a fun driver to watch, and really one of the guys that you kind of set your sights on. You realize, hey, look, Johnson's here. I'm racing that guy for at least a top 3 spot. He's talented and he's fun to watch. And we saw him at Bud Nationals, and we've seen him all over the West Coast, really. A great talent, and I'm sure Rob Maya kind of kicked himself in the butt for loaning him that car. But, those guys were buddies, and I think they had a good time racing each other.
Yeah, well, you look at it and you think he was kicking him in the butt, but if you look at the results from night number 1, Mike Johnson was up in number 2 spot. Rob was right there in the 9th spot, right behind Clay Daly. So, in a jam-packed talent-stacked roster of racers, those guys were both there both nights. So, there's nothing Mike or Robert, and Robert finished 9th on night 2 as well. So, top 10 guy all night out there with both cars. Was running in the beginning, had some minor issues during heat races. Neither one of those guys could complain about any of their racing for the weekend.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure and stuff. We're about to wrap up here, on Moxie Media here on Spreaker Radio. It's always a pleasure and stuff to talk to you, man. I can't wait to come down there to Bakersfield and shake your hand and have a good time doing that together.
Now, before we go real quick, with Mike still on the line, there's been a little bit of talk, Mike. You and I have been communicating off and on for several months about this, and we're kind of looking at your schedule, and there's talk that you might make it up here for the $5,000 to win Claire Cup and work that show with me. Are we still looking good on that?
I'm going to keep it under the pocket like Clay did. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that to you and won't hold it out. I'm working my best right now to try to make things happen for that. I've got to work out, family comes first and make sure we can do that. But that is definitely marked on the calendar for something that I want to do. I've always looked forward to coming up and meeting you guys because, one, I've only met Corey a handful of times down here, and I'd love to come up and see what you guys playing up there. You guys have been to my sandboxes down here. It's time for me to come up there.
No kidding. We'd love to have you, Mike. It's gonna be a cool deal. Again, we're gonna kind of come down to your track this year, providing everything works out, and kick some sand around at the Bud Nationals in your box. And the 3 of us will be working together. It'll be a full Moxie lineup on the mic, and that'll be a lot of fun for us and the fans as well. We hope that you guys enjoy the show. And Mike, really, thanks for taking your time, and we'll do more of this throughout the season.
No problem, man. It's been a pleasure, and I get to do the whole race car driver type thing. I'd like to thank my sponsors for letting me do this with Moxie Media. I'd like to thank Santa Maria Mobile Works and Tint Works. Those guys have been they've had my back, helping me out, doing a lot, helping me with my interviews, and sponsoring me for all that stuff. So I thank those guys, George Smith and everybody over at Mobile Works and Tint Works of Santa Maria. You guys are great. Thank you so very much. Moxie, you guys up there in the great Northwest, I can't wait to come see you guys. I love talking with you, and I love talking about racing. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
Have a good night, Mike. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mike Patterson down there, our Santa Maria Speedway correspondent.
The California correspondent. He kind of moves around a bit,
does,
and that guy
man.
knows the California scene.
He is on top of everything down there.
He knows the California scene well. There's a reason why he's representing Moxie out in California.
No kidding. 165 cars on a Sunday night.
That's incredible.
That's insane.
That really is. But, that's one of those shows, the Nationals, that just draws cars. And
Yep.
Santa Maria is one of those tracks that those guys like. It's unique. It's like he said, dry slick with ruts. We don't see that.
That just boggled my mind when he said that. I'm like, hold on.
This will be interesting because we'll kind of talk about this maybe on the next show. We'll get Rob or Brian Kronk or Darren Koffel to kind of call in, talk about their experience and what it was like to run a track.
I'd really like to get Rob Maya on the phone.
Yeah, Rob would be a good one.
That would be right there. The top of the person, or even Clay Daly and stuff. Hell, we got his phone number.
I'd be interested to get Kronk's perspective because there's a kid
that would be too.
He's got a great feel for shocks, and that's a track that obviously, we've mentioned it a couple times, is all about
How do you
setup.
set up for a dry slick rut track?
That's a question we'll have to ask Brian. Maybe we can get him on the line, on the next show. Brian, if you're listening, let's kind of plan on getting you on the show and talking about that and your experience.
Make sure you have your pen and paper out because I believe next week's show is going to be crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Strawberry Cup, all the stuff going on around the Northwest. This is the time of year where we are going into high gear, Josh. From here out, there's no risk of rain out typically. We're going to, we're going to see high temperatures, dry slick racetracks, big crowds, big car counts, and this is kind of where race season starts. We're going to go hard from here on out through September, and